Assalamualaikum, everyone. We're just going to give a few minutes for folks to join. So while we do wait, please let us know where you're streaming from. Assalamualaikum, everyone. I hope you are doing well. My name is Sausan Salim. I'm Communications Director with CARE Georgia, and I have with me Brother Shanan Dauda and Brother Tahir Jiwan. It is a pleasure to be with you all today. We will be discussing financial wellness. And yeah, I just wanted to see how everyone is doing today. So please let me know, number one, where you are streaming from, and number two, what is a piece of good news or something great that happened this week that you can share with everyone? So we do have someone from Miami, Florida. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Yusuf. All right, let's get started. So Brother Shanan, thank you so much for joining us. It would be a pleasure for you to go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know how you're doing. How is COVID-19 treating you? How everything is going?
Assalamu alaikum. So my name is Shanan Dauda. I'm a CPA, financial coach, author of the 5-star rated book From Paychecks to Power. You can find it on Amazon and also at Walmart, alhamdulillah. So background, I pretty much help people when it comes to financially just getting the right habits, developing the right mindset, inshallah, allowing yourself to really just one of the biggest pieces about finances is kind of learning how to understand yourself in relation to money, right? Like, so I help people navigate that area in terms of better financial management, better skills, better understanding, and things of that nature. As far as COVID-19, alhamdulillah, it's interesting for me because I've actually been very busy during this time. It has not slowed down at all for me, but I've seen for everyone else the slow down. So for me, it allows me to be very appreciative to stay busy and stay working and generating income and being able to contribute when there are others who are not so fortunate and are losing their jobs and have been, people are being told to, that to go on furlough, things of that nature. So it's a very interesting space to be in and just kind of see how it's impacting people on both sides.
Alhamdulillah, that's so great to hear. Brother Tahir, what about you? How is everything going with you? How is COVID-19 treating you?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
So, it's an interesting time. I have really, looked at this time as to, and I'll kind of share this later, is, who do I want to become June 1st? I know the federal lines are, till April 30th, but we kind of don't know if that's going to be the case. So in my mind, I have been thinking, who do I want to become June 1st? Because, I'm kind of a workaholic. So this is a different situation. I'm spending a lot of time with my family, my wife, my 3 kids. But I flew back March 13th from a business trip, and my wife said, she's going to pick me up from the airport. Usually I take an Uber back, and from that day till today, we've been home, and so it's been interesting. But I agree, with Brother Rashan said, is that there's so many people that are in getting furloughed or laid off, that this is a great opportunity to really do some reflection about, how blessed we are. And I think that's been probably what I've been doing the most of, because I don't think we count our blessings enough. I know I don't. So this has been an opportunity, honestly, for me to say, shukr. So that's what I've been doing.
Alhamdulillah, that sounds great. And one of the things that we've been talking about within my circle is we manifest what we seek out. So it's imperative that we have a mindset where we are grateful, where we are reflecting on the good things and the blessings that we have, so that inshallah that manifests within our outside world. And yeah, thank you so much for that reflection. And for those who are just joining us, this is the third phase of the Co-Victory 20 initiative. We are discussing financial wellness today. And Brother Shannon, how about we discuss what are the different questions or concerns that people within your circle, your clients have been having?
So a lot of people have been having different questions in regards to how to navigate the COVID-19 situation, right? Because on one side you have, well, the stock prices have fallen. Like, should I invest right now? Then on the other side, you have people who are losing jobs, people who are trying to create opportunity in a situation where they really don't understand where opportunity is. So it's been a lot of interesting questions. You've had people who are retirees who are trying to figure out, is my retirement going to be impacted? Am I still going to be able to continue to live off of this money? So there's a lot of wide variety from millennials to retirees trying to figure out, like, where can I either be better or maximize during this time.
Alhamdulillah, thank you so much. And we did have pre-submitted questions for you specifically, Brother Shannon. So the first question is, I'm trying to buy a house, but not sure what will happen after September. That's when my company said they will start to consider layoffs and furloughs. So what is something that you can let this person know?
So if this person, when it comes to financial planning or even financial coaching, when it comes to this point, and this person already knows that there's a potential of income being like lost, at that point, I would prepare as if to be conservative, right? So I'm not really looking in terms of, okay, maybe it's not the right time to buy a house, because there's a potential that I could be losing my income, right? You don't want to buy a house and then you can't make the payment, and that could lead into foreclosure or other things like that, right? So it would be, in my understanding, it'd be wiser to continue to stack your coins. We know that September is we don't know, it's a mystery in terms of our financial future income. So I would prepare to save and build that savings, and at least have something that can help them last if they end up losing their job. If they don't, then inshallah in September they have a huge down payment, to purchase that home, and they can continue going from there.
Alhamdulillah, thank you so much. Brother Tahir, feel free to jump in if you want to share any ideas after these questions are asked, inshallah. So we have another question. It is, I don't know how I'm going to get an apartment, being that they always want proof of income when income has been cut. So do you have any ideas to share about that?
So if their income has been cut and they need proof of income, then at that point, it might not be best for them to get an apartment if they're unable to show proof of income, right? Because at that point, you no longer qualified to get that place. So that might not be the time for them to get an apartment, or they can find additional ways to increase their income, right? We're in an era now where people are, doing side hustles like Uber, Instacart, different ways, in which I guess you can't really do those things now, but some people are charging scooters, just finding different ways to generate money online. So there's always ways that you can find ways to generate income. Like, I know a lot of people in the personal training space who have now, they can't train in gyms, so now they're training via Zoom and training via, just finding ways to kind of pivot within your industry or whatever you do and kind of take it online and still serve people that way, right? So there's still opportunities to at least try to get the income to match where it was, or generate some income on your own.
I wanted to add something because this is something that I always talk to my clients about. About 9 years ago, I started following this philosophy, and then once I did it for enough years, I started sharing it with clients. It's having multiple sources of income. I started my career, I was working for a Fortune 500 firm, and I was the senior partner of the firm, been there 8 years. And one fine day, I had basically a choice, and that was if they wanted me to relocate to a city and run one of their offices, and I didn't want to do that. So I ended up leaving that firm, and I thought to myself that when I joined that firm, I was naive and I thought, I was going to be there for 30 years. I was going to retire, the balloons were going to come down, and, I was going to have my pension and so on and so forth. Well, that instead of 30 years went 8 years. And from that day forward, I thought to myself, I don't ever want to have one source of income. I want to have multiple sources of income. And you hear a lot on the news, this terminology of the gig economy, or as the brother mentioned, the side hustle or whatever. But whatever it is in your life, if you don't learn from this experience anything, learn this one thing. I'm going to say two things. I'm going to cover it a little bit later, but it's have an emergency fund and have multiple sources of income. And also through this experience, understand what income is never going out of style. The Publix isn't closed. The Kroger isn't closed. So what are the ways to generate income that will always be there no matter what the situation is? So that's just something I wanted to add about multiple sources of income.
Thank you so much for that wonderful answer. We do have a follow-up question for in a discussion that we had previously, and that is, do you think the housing market is going to go down or up, and when will we see that fluctuation?
Is that for?
It's for either of you, so both of you are welcome to have your own answer, inshallah.
Okay, inshallah. So with the housing market, I definitely believe there's going to be fluctuation. In the direction, you don't really know, right? No one can say that this is when it's going to happen, this is when it's going to go down or go up. I definitely think that the signs are indicating that there's going to be a recession, with job loss, just the economy slowing down. And I think we won't really feel it until things try to get back up and running. And then I think that's when we're really going to see it in the economy. So with that, and housing prices, just even in Atlanta alone, I can say that the prices are crazy, right? And so there has to be a reset at some time, and it happens every 10 to 12 years. And we're in due time, because the last time was 2008. So we're in that window, right? So I think for sure there is going to be a reset. We don't know how bad it's going to be, but inshallah, there are plenty of people who are waiting for it to crash so they can go buy up an entire street. And that's always the idea, is to prepare for the crashes so you can take advantage during those times, inshallah.
Yeah, so I'll say I don't know. My financial mind tells me there's a pretty good chance, but you hear the president talk a lot about this phrase. He says it all the time. Pent up demand, pent up demand. You hear it just all the time, and that could save it. I will tell you that we're sitting here I'm in real estate. I do a lot of real estate transactions, and a very good friend of mine, who's also a realtor of mine, says to me that if somebody's selling their home, they usually list their home right in the spring, because people kind of buy homes, based on the school year and so on and so forth. Well, if you take a look at the inventory that's out there, people are taking their house off the market if they were trying to sell it, because they don't want on the Realtor app or Zillow for it to say our home has been on the market for X amount of days, because no one's really doing anything. So if you look at that, you say, well, this summer, forget about it. And when that usually happens, what happens? Prices drop. So like I said, my financial brain wants me to say yes, but then I have this little weird gut feeling that says it might not be for too long. So if you are interested in buying, you might have a small window to take advantage. If you're selling, probably not.
Thank you so much for those answers. And we also have a follow-up question asking, what is the interest for 15 years mortgage? How much cost for refinancing the house?
Totally dependent on individual factors. Um, it depends on a lot of different things. But interest rates are already at a record low. So I can't answer that question of, just without knowing the person's unique financial situation. So unfortunately, I can't answer that question that way. I will like to say this is that if you are financing a home today, and if you are married, and this is for now or in the future or whatever, really consider not having both husband and wife on the mortgage, and having them on the title. That gives you a lot more purchasing power in the future. Being on the title versus not, versus being on the mortgage. So having one person on the mortgage, and having both on the title. And again, everybody's situation is unique, but just some things to consider.
Thank you so much. We do have a follow-up question for Brother Shannon. You were discussing trying to adapt in this market, how to transfer into jobs that work within the current situation. And so we have a question as to how can we create multiple sources of income in a market where social distancing is imminent? What's the best online service for opportunities and that Muslims can begin on?
So to creating multiple streams of income in a market where social distancing is imminent, that one there, you have to really, I guess, let me take a step back. So when you're wanting to start a business online, for me personally, this is from my experience, and what I've seen others do. You want to do something that you actually enjoy, right? It's like, so you don't want to just go sell products because someone says you can make money doing this. You want to do something that you actually enjoy. And I've personally seen this, as Brother Tahir was saying about a multiple streams of income, is I personally have also started outside of the financial thing, also do personal training, right? And so I've been able to do this online, and I've even worked it out to where, at least in the state of Georgia, we're still able to be outdoors, but we just have to be 6 feet apart, right? So like I'll have outdoor trainings, but everyone's 6 feet apart, social distancing is being practiced, and it fits within the mold and the rules, right? And so it's one of those things where you can still continue to provide services, but you just have to adjust, right? So another way I see people making money through online is like all these kids are at home right now. Tutor online, right? Give an opportunity to tutor online. You can maybe even offer a service where you read books to kids at night if their parents, like just there's so many different ways to capitalize with the parents needing a break from their kids, right? And so there's so many ways. You just have to really sit down and think, what do I enjoy doing? Right. And then how can I provide that to a service with all these people at home right now? Like everyone is at home. Like this is the opportunity to really get in front of people, right? Get in front of on their phones, on their screens. You can really pitch yourself for free on social media.
I love the idea of doing something around the kids. We have 3 kids. We have a 6-year-old, 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And I love my kids. I absolutely love them. But I think they're tired of us. And it's just a lot because they're used to a routine. My mom decided to come over to my home. She didn't want to come for the first few weeks, and she decided to quarantine with us. And but she waited a few weeks, and so on and so forth. And my children were just happy to see another person. So I agree. I think that there's such an opportunity. I mean, you don't think about it, but having somebody else read a nighttime book to your child via FaceTime, that could work. Besides the fact that the parents would appreciate it and might even be willing to pay you, for it, because that gives them an opportunity to have that 30, 45 minutes, to themselves. So I think that's a wonderful idea, and I think that just thinking outside of the box. Also, depending on the service you're offering, there's a lot of your customers right now are looking for value. I have a gift card from the NFL store, NFL shop. I'm a big football guy. My wife got me the gift card in October, and I've been spending a little bit of it here now. Well, 3 days ago they had a 60% off sale. Well, why? Because no one's purchasing anything. So what did I do? I'm looking for a value, right? So you have people that are value shopping at this time, and if you can tweak your service or give them a little bit extra value, you might be able to capture that dollar. And this is something that I know people have heard, but gift cards are great. People, purchasing a gift card, or if you want to sell your service through a gift card, for the service to be, for them to use that service later, but the cash flow could help your situation.
Great, thank you so much. We do have an additional question. How do we manage finances if this epidemic puts us behind on normal monthly costs? Example, if I'm behind on mortgage and utilities right now, when things go back to normal, how should we handle this?
So this is an interesting question. So when it comes to bills and obligations, and if you're behind, one of the things I try to tell people all the time is that you want to take care of the four walls, which are around the house, right? So you want to take care of, you have a place to stay, housing, you got food, you got transportation to get to where you need to go, like in terms of work, things like that, and you have clothing, right? And so you want to make sure you have those four things. So now, if you get behind on it, and alhamdulillah, like a lot of these companies are offering grace period with mortgages, light bills, things of that nature. If you're behind as a result of income being lost. So inshallah, if we get out of this, the income returns, it can help you catch up because they gave you deferment. But if it's not, then you have to look at the option of, me personally, I try to get people to stay away from, taking out additional debt. So maybe finding a way to generate, again, multiple streams of income, have an additional side of income that's helping you have funds as you get back to work or get back to generating your normal routine of income.
I will just add, do not run from the problem. Pick up the phone, call your provider, whether it's a utility bill, the mortgage. Do not, don't have the attitude of, well, the whole world is going through this. I've seen a lot of things on television where T-shirts are being made that, I won't pay, I won't pay the rent. I won't. Okay. It's fine to not pay the rent, or it's fine not to pay the mortgage. I understand, but don't run from it. Pick up the phone, call. I'm on the other side of this. I have a tenant two tenants who reached out and said, hey, what are we going to do for the month of April? And I said, you called, I was going to call you, but we were able to work it out. But it was the fact that, they picked up the phone and called. So obviously, I mean, the landlord is going to take a look at that. The bank is going to take a look. But if you're going to run from it or have the attitude on the phone that, hey, do whatever you got to do. No, there's a way to get to where you want to get to. And I think it's the words you choose, the attitude you have, it goes a long way.
That's an excellent point. I just wanted to add to that what Brother Tahir said is really, really important, because it shows us that the reward and the benefit of being proactive versus reactive, right? And that's why in Dr. Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, number 1 is being proactive, right? So if you know your situation is, well, I can't afford my rent next month, but let me go ahead and pick up the phone now and call so we can set something up, instead of I get to that month and now I'm trying to react versus being proactive. So that's a huge point right there. Thank you for sharing that, brother.
Thank you so much. We have another question about the stimulus package. So there's a lot of buzz about that. And the question is, how should we best use it? So basically give like a general background about what the stimulus package entails, but also what are the best ways to utilize the money coming in?
You want me to go ahead and start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Well, so how, and again, depending on your income, your unique situation, depending on how many children you have, I mean, just depending on your situation, the amount of money that you're going to receive is going to differ from your neighbor. But, how should that money be used? So it just depends on what your situation was when you first got into this situation. So example, if you had a complete loss of income and you're using your emergency fund now to pay your bills, my answer is going to be, well, replenish the emergency fund, because just because this emergency is done, that doesn't mean the next emergency is not going to come in the future. Now, if you're in a situation where you didn't have an emergency fund and you were behind on your bills, then I'm going to go back to I love that, the four walls. Which wall is the most important, right? So let's go take care of that one. So really, it's all depending on your unique situation, the money that's going to come in, your income, the amount of children you have, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then also, what you do with it depends on your unique situation. But again, I'll go back to something I just said: do not run from the problem. And I'm not speaking. I'm not just speaking through. You know, I appreciate the fact that we have to take a look at our faith and everything. I'm just speaking today based on financial common sense. Do not run from this problem. If it's a problem, just be honest with whoever it is that you're going to be uh, having the problem with. Just pick up the phone and call them, whether it's a bank, if it's a utility company, or whoever it is, um, and don't go blow that money when you get it.
Yeah, and I would just add to the point of the emergency fund is just, well, as you get this stimulus, we're uncharted and unknown territory, so it's really really important to I would say put this money aside, beef up the emergency fund, add it to it, and not even spend it if you don't have to. If you need to take care of yourselves, like pay your rent, your mortgage, stuff like that, that's completely fine. But if you can afford to put this money in savings, put it in savings, because we don't know when we're going to get out of this. We don't know when life is going to become normal, if it will ever become normal, right? So it's so uncharted territory that we need to really be conservative and take things very one step at a time. Let's figure it out day by day, instead of making big um, financial decisions that could hurt us, 2 months from now or 3 months from now.
I'd like to say something because we both mentioned the emergency fund. So just to kind of explain to people that some people might know what an emergency fund is, some people might not, and different people view it as X amount of months. But to go back, there's something in the financial world called your burn rate, and your burn rate is basically your monthly expenses, whether you have a mortgage, you have rent, car payments, daycare for your child, groceries, et cetera. But whatever you spend every single month, that is usually referred to in the financial world as your burn rate. And depending on your personal risk tolerance, you're going to say, well, I want to have X amount of my burn rate sitting in a liquid place as an emergency fund. Most advisors will tell you 6 months. Some will even go as far as 12 months. If you own a business, if you have employees, if you have other things, it might even be 2 years. It just depends. But 6 months is very common. So when we talk about emergency fund, it's 6 months of your burn rate. Your burn rate is the amount of money that you spend every single month for. I'll go back to what I really liked. What the brother said is the four walls. So that when a situation that happens, which would be referred to as an emergency, you can spend from that emergency fund.
We also have another question relating to the stimulus money. Do you know if people have begun to receive it? If not, do you know when people will receive the money? I think it's a little bit difficult to answer because we just don't know necessarily. But if you do know, please let us know, inshallah.
Well, again, it supposedly has gone out, supposedly, and this upcoming Wednesday was what I had again read that the first individuals should be receiving their checks. I had heard something a couple days ago where somebody had mentioned that they had received it. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but through the research I had done, that the first wave of the money supposedly has gone out and can be received as early as this Wednesday. I just feel that there's going to be so much more information that's going to come up in the next couple of weeks that's going to give us more clarity. It is a really sad situation, very, very sad situation, because here we are talking about 6 months emergency fund and all of that. But, the people that need this money, they don't have a 6 month emergency fund. They need the money now. I can understand the question. And unfortunately, that's about as much information as I have. And depending on what search I do, I get conflicting information. And maybe some of you are experiencing that too.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Same. They say as early as this Wednesday, Thursday, we're supposed to see some things, but I haven't heard of anybody confirming anything or receiving a stimulus. But as the brother said, man, here we are talking about emergency fund, but like almost 80% of Americans are living check to check. So it's gonna be a very this is a very hard time for people. And so it's going to be the get the money, and it's probably gone within 24 hours, to be honest. So we have to really think about that. It might help somebody get over for half a month or this month, and then after that, we don't know what's going to happen. So it's really, really dire out there.
And this goes back to a conversation that we previously had on this platform with Sister Isabel Otero and Brother Murtaza Khwaja about the necessity for civic engagement in regards to this package. It's not sufficient, and we all know that. So it's imperative that we call our representatives and make sure that we're engaged, even though this is a very difficult time, advocating for the rights that we deserve. And we have another question about, so we talked about the fact that we have to be proactive. So generally people tend to focus on the short-term impacts of the financial situation. What about the long-term? What do you foresee, and how should people plan for that?
There's definitely long-term, effects to this situation. And I really like the question that we do always focus on the short term, but the truth is that there are going to be long-term effects. Again, going back to something I said earlier, each and every person's unique situation will determine the type of impact that they will have. The long term that I see, which scares me a little bit, is that you have all these people working from home. Okay, somebody in the back room of every company is sitting there right now saying, do we really need all of those employees coming to the office every day? Look, we made it. Do we really need to have a 40,000 square foot office at the top of this really expensive building? Look, we made it. So I feel that the long-term impact of this is, companies are gonna, they're gonna think about it before they hire. So now that's the bad news. Before Shanann, before you comment on this, I don't want to make this call all about doom and gloom. So let me give you some, the positive of this. This is a phenomenal time to sharpen the saw. I'm a big Stephen Covey fan too. So, this is a phenomenal time to look at yourself and say, I don't want to ever be in a position like this again. What skill can I go pick up or sharpen so that if it's between me and another individual, that decision has to be made, that I've put myself in a better situation. Because the long-term impact of this is going to be that people are going to look at their workforce differently. Restaurants who used to complain so much about paying Uber Eats and Grubhub 30% of the ticket today are living only off of delivery. Okay, so that they have seen that, hey, this delivery that we complain about so much because it takes so much off the top, is right now the only way that we can keep the lights on. So just giving that example is that it is going to have a long-term effect, but who are you going to be June 1st? But better yet, how are you going to learn from this? So every June 1st, every May 1st, you can look back at this and say, hey, I made this one change and I'm better for it.
Brother Shannon, do you have anything to add to that?
I was just gonna say that this whole situation, when it comes to the long-term effect, I think so. One part that I really wanted to address is that I think it's really interesting how Allah made the whole world sit down, right? Like we all had to stop dead in our tracks and really pay attention to how we're living, how we're consuming, right? We live in the highest consumption times ever, right? And so it's just one of those things where I hope that everyone takes this time of sitting down and sitting still to really evaluate themselves and evaluate how we're spending our money. Because there's no reason why we should, I can't speak for everyone, but there's no reason why 80% of Americans should be living check to check. And this whole trend of living check to check is spreading worldwide, right? It's gone from just being a Western thing to a world phenomenon where everybody's just spending money, living off of debt, and paying enough, making enough just to pay the bills and continuing the cycle. So I think it's a really awakening moment for us to really change how we're behaving and how we're living. So inshallah, we can grow from this and learn from this. But I think it's one of these kind of this situation is an event that you never forget. It's kind of like how people always talk about 9/11 or they talk about something else. Like you just never forget that, where you were when it happened, right? And so it's the same thing with this COVID-19. I think it's going to really cause us to look at life different. Financial planning is going to be completely different now. This situation is now going to be factored in people's financial planning. Like if I can't go to work, if the world just stops, what am I going to do, right? So all of this is going to change how we look at things going forward.
One more thing I'd like to add is, as you sit there and think about how the world is going to change and the long-term effect, get your entrepreneurial hat on and say, hey, what are the industries that are going to be impacted? I've got a cousin of mine in Toronto who has, for the last 6-7 years has been, I joke with her, I call her the queen of Airbnb, and she has these, about 40 Airbnb apartments. And she doesn't own any of them. She just rents them and then she re-rents them, right? And her husband have built a really nice business over the last, 5-6 years. Well, that business basically shut down overnight. And people will think twice before they travel now, at least for the next few years. Yes, there's this pent up demand, and yes, people will, are going stir crazy and they want to go spend money and they want to go travel. But don't you think people are going to think about, hey, do I really want to travel to that part of the world? What diseases are there? How many people get sick there? How many different industries are going to be impacted? The airline industry is impacted, right? So put your entrepreneurial hat on right now and say, hey, based on this problem, what solutions can I provide? Last thing I'll say about this is that, a few weeks ago, I saw this advertisement from Papa John's saying, that, your pizza is never touched once it comes out of the oven. So what did they do? They addressed the problem, right? They understand it's a problem, but they already had the solution. And I think that's what needs to be, while we're sitting here, we need to be thinking about what industries are going to be having problems and how can I become part of the solution. And through that solution, you might, develop yourself in a way that you didn't have that skill. I know people will come out of this saying, well, when the coronavirus, quarantine happened, I decided to learn this skill, and now I've built X, Y, and Z from it, and it's been 5 years. And I would love it if the people that were on, this call and this webinar with us were one of those people.
Thank you so much for your answers. Let's go ahead and move on with the program, and inshallah, we will answer the questions as they come. Brother Shannon, you are most known for debt and how to navigate credit. So how about you go ahead and discuss that, especially in regards to what's going on right now? Brother Shannon, I think your mic is muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So when it comes to COVID-19 situation and debt, and as many people know, I'm really like all about like getting debt free, freeing up your cash flow so you can really invest strong, make some good financial moves. But in this time, like I've even told some of my clients and even like my avid followers on my Instagram page, that right now is a time where even if you were in the process of paying off student loans, paying off cars, paying off credit cards, even maybe working maybe towards paying off your home, right now is a time where you want to just, if you can afford to, just make the minimum payment, and whatever extra you're putting towards your debt, to start putting that towards a savings, or just like building an emergency fund or padding your emergency fund, inshallah, just to kind of give yourself some protection. Because again, we don't know where we're going, we don't know where this is going to end. I When this first situation first came about, I was like, this is not going to be over until at least at a minimum June, and they keep extending the date, and I think we're going to get past that. I don't think they're saying colleges now are not even going to think about bringing students back to campus until 2021, right? So I think when it comes to the whole, debt and aggressively attacking debt, I think it's really good just to kind of put a pause on that, pad your emergency fund. And when it comes to credit, credit and positioning yourself for that, just continue to make your minimum payments. That will help your score maintain itself and take care of itself. If you get behind and you can't afford to pay, don't freak out. It's a situation that's at hand, and I guess, like I said before, I want you to be able to take care of the four walls: eat, have a place to stay, have some transportation to get around if you need to, have clothing for yourself before you should be worried about a credit card, right? At least take care of yourself and your family, and inshallah, just work towards once we get back going. And also, one of the biggest things that we always overlook is just keep this whole situation in your du'as, man. There's power in that as well.
So we do have a follow-up question on that about 401k. Do you have any advice in regarding to a 401k plan?
I might, Brother Tahir, you want to take that one?
Does it say if the person is the question around their employer contribution? Is their employer threatening to not contribute? I mean, or is it just a general question about a 401k?
It's just a general question at this point. Hopefully, by the time they are able to see this stream, they can respond to that. But maybe we just go general, and if they respond, we can update, inshallah.
Again, I don't know how much knowledge the people on this stream have of a 401k, but I'll give you a 30-second commercial on a 401k. 401k is offered by companies as in 1978. The United States had this brilliant idea of a 401k, and the way they pitched it to their employees or the consumers is, hey, we're going to give you this great way to lower your taxes. I believe that it was a polite way of saying that we're going to get rid of pension plans, and it was supposed to be a supplement to your retirement. It was supposed to be an add-on, and then slowly, big companies stopped doing pensions. And the difference between a pension and a 401k is a pension is a guaranteed income, for life. You work for this company for X amount of years, and then you retire, and they pay you forever. 401k is just a bucket of money where you put in X amount of dollars, your employer matches a smaller percentage, and then that gets invested. And then, at past age 59 and a half, if you touch that money, there's no penalty. You still have to pay taxes on it, but there's no 10% penalty. Most people, retire later than 59 and a half. So, the general question that was asked about a 401k is, what advice is there during this time? So here's the way I will answer that. Over the last 2 weeks, depending on if you got in the market on day X or day Y, a lot of people made a lot of money. So your 401k over the last 30 days might have gone through this big swing. There might have been a roller coaster. So it might have been up and really, gone down, but depending on if you, hung in there, if you panicked, or if you, rebalanced your holdings, a lot of people, when something like this happens, I call it the firefighter mentality. When a building is burning, people are jumping out of the building. Who's running into the building? firefighters are running into the building. And firefighters are running in the building because, that's their job. A sound investor or an individual that understands that you have to be a firefighter, don't run out of the burning building, because you have time on your side, depending on your age. Things do turn around, but human nature, we jump out of the building. So a lot of people during times like this, what they do with their 401k is they rebalance it and they move everything into cash. Well, if you watch the market this past week, and it was a short week, it was only a 4-day week because of Good Friday. Market did really, really well in the last 4 days. So if an individual moved their, rebalanced their 401k, moved their positions because they had that jump out of the burning building mentality versus the firefighter mentality, they just lost the last 4 days, and those were strong 4 days. So my without understanding the specific question, my generalization answer is going to be a 401k is designed to be a long-term savings vehicle. So don't allow this short-term, and I understand this is a unique catastrophe, don't allow this short-term emotion or short-term situation to play with your emotions on something that you thought about doing for a long period of time.
And I'll just add to that, just from a more, I guess, household budget view of the 401k. If you're in a situation right now where your money is tight, then and this is just my opinion, I would consider, if your money is tight and you can't afford to pay your bills, maybe pausing your 401k contributions, freeing up that cash flow to kind of help you in the household. But if you're able to continue to invest and your finances are fine, continue that process, allow the money to keep going in and allow it to take advantage of the market that Brother Tahir is talking about. Right. But if it's a situation where you got to pick between your 401k and eating, I need you to pick eating. Right. So that's something to consider there from the day-to-day operations of your household finances at this time.
Thank you so much. And we also have another question about unemployment. Would filing for that disadvantage people in the future? Does it have negative consequences in the future?
So I'll just answer it from one perspective, and there's a lot of people that I'm going to answer this from an immigration perspective. Unfortunately, I've had people that are afraid that if they, if they have their green card in their hand and if they file for unemployment, that their citizenship date is going to be, pushed back, or it's going to be something negative is going to happen because of this. The answer is we don't know. I would love to sit here and tell you that it's not going to impact you in a negative way. Do I believe it's going to impact you in a negative way? No, I don't believe so. But I know that this is questions that are on people's mind. Is that if I collect unemployment today, how is that going to impact me? So this is not the answer I'm going to give you now is more of an opinion, and it's not a fact because I don't have the information to give you a factual answer, because we're kind of in uncharted territory here. But the opinion is when the entire economy is going through something like this and there is a benefit that's out there, you go ahead and take it, because you're not a one-off. You're not the one person that's taking advantage of this benefit. The whole economy is taking advantage of this benefit. And again, when that benefit is 100% available, because one of the things that I'm so disappointed about, and I know it's politics and I get it, but I'm so disappointed that they didn't just EFT the money. And I get it. They say, well, it's not everybody's checking account. Well, mail it to everybody. But to give this money to the states and have these people that need the money have to go and wait in line at the state, or I'm sorry, wait on hold for hours and hours and hours, it defeats the purpose. So I know it's political and so on and so forth, but the answer is, my opinion is I don't think there's going to be a negative impact. So if this is a benefit that you need, again, going back to what Brother Shannon said, is protect those walls. We'll worry about Thursday when Thursday gets there, but today, can't worry about Thursday today. Today we have to worry about today. Today we have to worry about Saturday. So that's my opinion. Unfortunately, it's not a factual answer because we've never been in a situation like that.
Right, and I great point, brother. And I just wanted to add with the unemployment, two things. From the first thing, I think a lot of people, the negative impact that they build up in themselves is their own ego, right? Like, I have to go file for unemployment. Like, I've never had this situation. Like, listen, brother or sister, it's completely fine. You need it, take it, right? Don't feel like you're less than, or you're because there are certain people in the community who, or in just society, who make fun of people who are on welfare, who are in unemployment situations. So, like, don't let that fall into your situation, or prevent you from taking advantage of it. Then also, I'm a CPA as well, so from a tax perspective, there are implications. So if you may get unemployment income, you do have to report on your taxes next year. So what you can do is you can have them withhold taxes from your unemployment, so you don't have to worry about that tax bill the next year when you file your taxes. So that's just something. It's not a negative point, but it just comes with earning income. You have to pay taxes, right? So consider that as earned income for unemployment.
Can I just make a point about a previous question that was asked around a 401k? This is a more of a offline type of thing, but if anybody is considering taking money out of their 401k and taking advantage of the certain rules that are now going to be certain opportunities, certain window opportunities that are going to be available, that you can actually take money out of your 401k and not pay a penalty up to about $100,000 or so. If you're considering doing that, I would love to be of a resource in just being a sounding board as to A, why are you thinking of doing that? And B, if you are, what are we going to do with that? I had a client said, hey, it actually makes financial sense for me to take money out of my 401k for this window, and I could pay down another debt. And it makes sense to do it. So again, it's a unique situation, but understand that in this unfortunate situation, there are going to be some opportunities and some rules that are going to come out that are going to give you an opportunity to access cash that was never, that you couldn't access before without paying a 10% penalty. So understanding those opportunities could make you come out ahead of this situation. And I respect the fact that everybody's situation is different. That's why I said it's more of a offline type of a question that I would love to be of a resource to.
So we do have a question about, so basically the conversations that we have about finance are defined by what people are talking about, what the media is talking about. So are there any financial issues that you think are not being addressed by the media or within our community or within our personal conversations that we really should be addressing?
I believe from our community standpoint, I'll say this, is we need to, as a community, do a financial planning 101 type of workshop on a recurring basis, because I feel that a lot of people that are very successful in their unique, I always joke with my brother-in-law, he's my client. He's a really important gastroenterologist, and my father-in-law was a doctor, and my other brother-in-law was a doctor. Everybody was a doctor. I was the black sheep. I wasn't the doctor. And I always laugh, and joke with them because I don't know the first thing about medicine, but I understand money really well. And I'm just blessed that, he put his kind of ego to the side and came to me and became my client years ago. But I know there's a lot of people that are very educated in their field, whether they're a doctor, a business owner, an IT professional, or whatever they are, and they just don't understand, the finances. So I believe that not just the news, but the community, if we could have a financial planning 101, because we talk about 80% of the people are living paycheck to paycheck. So the bigger question is why? And I believe that everything comes back to education. I say this not I say this all the time, not as a joke. I say this sincerely. I say, if I would have known what I know today 17 years ago, I would be retired by now. And people, my wife laughs and she goes, what do you mean? You know a good bit. I said, yes, but what I know today versus what I knew when I was in my 20s is different. So what does it come back to? Comes back to education. And then after education, it's choices. So what I think that when this is all over, and it's so sad that 6 months from now it's not going to be in the news, and as much it is now, no one's going to sit there and say, we really should make sure that those people that were living paycheck to paycheck, they get the proper education and are put in a better situation so that doesn't ever happen again. So I feel that's what's not being talked about is what are we learning from this?
I agree 100%. I was actually going to comment on the same thing. I think one of the bigger concerns that's not being talked about in the media, it's really in general society. We're blaming. I'm not blaming, but we're putting all the fault on COVID-19. We're putting it on Trump. We're putting it on these companies. But at the same time, a lot of people are not taking the blame for themselves. Right? We're in this situation because, as Brother Tahir said, our choices. Right? The choice, whether it be how we spend our money or the lack to grow in knowledge financially, that choice of not preparing. Right? Those who prepared, they're doing fine right now. Those who did not prepare or haven't had the opportunity to prepare are not doing fine right now. So, and it's so ironic because I started my whole financial journey uh, 10, 11 years ago, trying to get out of debt and get my finances in order. So for 10 years, I've been positioning myself, right? Paying off debt, building my emergency fund, investing, saving, positioning myself to where right now I'm going through COVID-19 with everyone else, but I don't have the financial stress of a car payment, student loans, credit cards that are, adding additional burden on my back. And I think that if we can, as people, especially in our community, allow ourselves to work towards, positioning ourselves to be better financial position, it'll make these kind of situations, pandemics, setbacks really easier for us to navigate instead of dealing with the problem and the stress, money stress at the same time. That's a lot to deal with.
That is definitely a really great point, particularly because we're not being taught. I still am in college, and up until this point, I have never had a single finance course in my life. I don't know how to manage money because it's not being taught. So I think it does point to a broader conversation as to how to reimagine the educational system to make sure people understand how to manage their finances. So I thank you so much for pointing out to that. And inshallah, we would love to have both of you in a 101 workshop as you talked about, because we do not understand the basics. That would be great to have, inshallah.
I want to add something because I really, really want to throw gasoline on this last comment. Okay. And this is something that really, it really upsets me so much for every single person out there. And here's my gasoline. The fact that you just said that you're in college right now and you still have yet to have that. I want you to think about something tonight. Why? And this is my opinion. I believe 100% from the time that we are thrown into the school system, we are taught to become employees. We are taught I'm not talking about owning a business. I'm talking about being entrepreneurially minded. You don't have to own a business to be entrepreneurially minded. But see, the world we live in, and this is my gasoline on this, is the world we live in, we are taught to work for someone. We are never ever taught that while we are working for a company or whatever we're doing, we can actually be setting up our finances and create multiple streams of income and understand cash flow management. And I love, not having debt. No, you know what we're offered? We're offered MasterCard. We're offered Visa. I went to a Chicago Bulls game 20 years ago, and I remember I signed up for my first credit card because why? Because I was a young kid, and the credit card was a Chicago Bulls credit card, and I signed up for that. I had no business 20 years ago, or it was more than 20 years ago. But anyway, I had no business. I didn't need one. But that's what our society tells us. Here, take this credit card. There's no class on, hey, from 20 to 35, depending on your income, you're going to make X amount of dollars, and what percentage of that should we save and invest, and so on and so forth. So when we're in our 40s and 50s, we can retire. No, we're taught 65 is retirement. Well, yeah, because if everybody in this world was taught to retire in their 40s or 50s, nobody would be working. And that's what people want. That's what this world wants. They want us to continue to work. And then my favorite is then they want us to buy a home, and then eventually when we retire, what do they want us to do? Sell that home and downsize, give it back, give back that home and get a smaller home. So if you really think about it, really take this time to think about it, and think about how do you beat this system? And you beat it with what Brother Shanann said. You don't need to have debt. He spent 10 years putting himself in a position where, if something like this was to happen, he's going through, he's going through the storm, but the storm's not going through him. I think about that all the time. So that's my gasoline to this, is that the world is not designed for us to be financially successful. It's not. So what are we going to do to change that? And I think a financial planning 101, course would just be the starter. I'm done ranting.
Oh man, alhamdulillah, that was a beautiful point, brother. And thank you for sharing that point about going through the storm instead of the storm going through you, right? Like, because that's a beautiful point, because the storm is on the outside of me versus being on the inside, right? It's not also, it's an external war things going on instead of an internal battle as well. So alhamdulillah, that was a beautiful point there. I do have to run, so I do want to close my give my send offs to you all. Thank you so much for the opportunity. The last point that I want to say is, when it comes to money management, you have to get in control of you. Like, you have to understand, like, what are your tendencies? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What do you not know? What can I do? What do I need to learn? Right. They say most Americans do not budget, right? They don't even have a plan. They make their money, they pay their bills, and whatever's left, they squander away. Inshallah, we have to change that. April, I'm making this amount of dollars. What am I going to do with this money? Right? You need to have a plan before April gets here. Let's be proactive, inshallah, instead of reactive, right? Same thing and you do that every month, inshallah, you have an amazing year. You do that for a decade, you have an amazing decade, right? Do that for a lifetime, you'll be a millionaire, and inshallah, have peace of mind and don't have to worry about it. But you have to take 1 month at a time, one paycheck at a time, and just go from there. Everybody wants to be a millionaire overnight, but it takes constant work, effort, consistently over a period of time to get those results. I tell people all the time, you want to build wealth, take the crock pot approach. Put all the ingredients in the pot, and inshallah, go put it in the crock pot and let it cook slowly over time, right? Because wealth is not built overnight. So inshallah, thank you guys all for the opportunity. If you're on social media, you can find me on Instagram. From Paychecks to Power is my financial brand. Also, no shameless plug, here's my book, From Paychecks to Power. Amazon, check it out, or Walmart as well. Thank you again for the opportunity. Pleasure to meet you, Brother Tahir. Thank you, Sosan. I appreciate you. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Thank you so much for joining us, Brother Shannon. The engagement is off the charts. People are asking so many questions, so it was great to have you as a part of this. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you.
Brother Tahir, would you like to continue with your presentation? Or inshallah, it's up to you, we can continue next time with an in-depth financial 101 planning.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'll be happy to answer any final questions. Yeah, I'd love to do anything. I love to do anything where we have the opportunity to coach people on not only just financial planning, but being entrepreneurially minded. Because I really have realized, within my own self is that you don't have to own a business to be entrepreneurially minded. Now, if you choose to own a business, I chose to own a business, and then that's fine. But way before I ever owned a business, I was always entrepreneurially minded, and I just feel like, unfortunately, people are not taught that. My sister is a nurse practitioner, and before all of this happened, I visited her in Kansas about 2 months ago, and she's really smart and knows everything about the medical world. But she talked to me a lot about just some things that she wanted to talk about relating to finances. And it's like, even I was thinking, I'm like, man, my sister's pretty smart. But some of the questions she had, I guess I was a little surprised. But then I was thinking to myself, why am I surprised? It happens to me all the time. She's busy. She's busy being being really good at what she does. And I have a quote that I say, do what you do best and outsource the rest. And people who are really good at their professional line or whatever they're doing, they need to outsource their somebody to help them become better with their money. Having a money coach, having a financial advisor. So yeah, I'd love to be of a resource to anybody that needs information.
And something to note is that we do have a lot of youth who have such great ideas, but just don't know how to manifest them. And it would be great to have that workshop, particularly for you, so that we kind of alleviate the issue that people don't have access to financial planning within the educational system, not in high school, not in college, never. So it would definitely be great to have you back, inshallah.
Something I'll say for young entrepreneurs, I've lost track of how many ideas I had that either I did not follow through with, or a business that I owned for 3 or 4 years and did really well for 3 or 4 years, but then it kind of lost its charm, and I ended up selling it or closing it. I've had a lot of businesses in the financial recruiting space because I come from that world, and so on and so forth. It's okay, I like Mark Cuban a lot, and he says, you only have to be right once. And you don't have to have the first business I sold was 9 years ago. That was the first business that I had built from scratch and sold. But when I built it, I thought I was going to own it forever. And that's not what happened. But it did really, really well. And then I had an opportunity to sell it. And I actually learned that there's a really good opportunity in building something and then selling it. And if you just do that over and over again, it's okay too. So for my young entrepreneurs, I would say, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. And you're going to have a lot of ideas. And I think that the time that we're in right now, get your notebook out, jot down a lot of your ideas, and look at the problems that are out there, and how can you be part of that solution.
I want to thank you so much, Brother Tahir, for joining us today. And thank you to Brother Shannon. He already stepped away. May Allah allow us the ability to overcome this with grace, and to bless us with knowledge and the ability to overcome. Ameen. And if with that, I would like to conclude. Thank you all so much for joining us. If you have any questions, please comment in the comment section. Even contact me at ssalim@care.com with any suggestions or comments. And inshallah, we'll see you tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. to discuss education during the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.